Okay, next item, approval of non-certified administrative IMRF and administrative contracts.
This is just the annual recommendation for, either pay increases or extension of some multi-year contracts. The average pay increase for certified administrators is 2.29%, and the average pay increase for non-certified IMRF staff is 2.8%. As stated earlier in the meeting, there's actually some cost savings in the next fiscal year, just under $5,000, $4,879. Over this year, that is due to retirement and replacement with lower cost folks. So that's the summary of approval of the administrative contracts.
Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the non-certified administrative IMRF and administrative contracts as presented. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion or questions?
What's the benefit for the school district in having multi-year contracts for the administrators?
So that, when they're taking buildings through changes, they have the opportunity to look out ahead and have some long-term vision for their buildings and get to know their staff and have stability.
So one key difference, I want to make sure I understand, one key difference between single-year administrators and multi-year administrators is the single-year administrators, the pay can be tied to performance, but the pay for multi-year, that's set in the contract, so there's no room there, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, generally speaking, you're voting on a contract that has built-in pay increases on the multi-year. Those are generally offered historically in the district, and then you can speak to this as well, but those have been offered to people who have shown their excellence in leadership here and have already known quantity and have been evaluated. And it doesn't mean that there's people on multi-year contracts are not evaluated, they are. So that doesn't go away.
There's a continuity piece to that. There's a planning piece to that. It's easy for trying to project things out, and you know what the numbers are going to be ahead of time. We're also in a situation now, quite frankly, where good administrative talent is harder to find than it used to be. We've seen that the last few times we've gone out and done searches. And so quite frankly, it's more important than it was 4 years ago when I first came on board, probably, to make sure that people know that we appreciate them and we want them around. And quite frankly, it helps us to lock some people in a little bit. So that's been the how it's driven most of that.
Historically, how long have we been doing multi-year contracts like this?
We've done them, I want to say, past 7 or 8 years, maybe 9 years. We've always done them to some extent, but we've got more serious about it.
I went to Urbana. We've also not done them too, though.
Right, yeah.
So what's the basis for deciding which administrators are offered a multi-year and which ones are single year?
Typically people who've been here longer and again, they've established themselves as quality leaders.
I think for me, some of the contracts that we're talking about extending are actually already multi-year contracts that take us through not just the next school year, but the school year after that. Because I haven't had a chance to be a part of that evaluation process that's written into the contract about goal setting and things, I'm hesitant to extend beyond what, I feel like we've already got a 2-year contract. And I'd like to go through that process of that evaluation process and be a part of that before we extend even further contracts. I think we've shown people that they're valuable and that they're staying, and we want them to stay. And so I just think that it might behoove us to get through that cycle once before we extend any contracts further than we already have them out.
So, the board doesn't actually evaluate the administrators, that's, my responsibility, I'm the only employee that the board evaluates, so.
But the contract actually has that language in it. I actually read the contracts today, and so it says superintendent along with the school board will evaluate the administrator, so I guess I'm confused.
It's what I do is I bring feedback to the school board about the administrators, the evaluations, and if that's something that.
I just haven't had a chance to see any of that feedback.
And that brings up something I asked earlier today. The language in the contract says that the board and the superintendent will go over with the administrator their goals. And you had said earlier that the school board never gets the goals of the administrators, so, that was something that she asked us all to talk about. I don't know, I was confused since the language said the board goes over the goals with the administrators, and I asked for the goals, and I thought that was something the board had already decided since they signed the contract, and so I was really.
We get building goals,
I have to take the board on performance.
which parallel to some extent the first two.
Well, there's just obviously a discrepancy in language, because if you understand the ISB things that govern a board, it's clear that she is the person that we evaluate. And she comes back and asks board members, I'm just kind of telling you this, you know, or it tells us that kind of thing, but we don't evaluate the people.
It's clear in here that she is the one that does the
Right.
evaluation. It says the board goes over with the administrator.
And I'm validating that you are making a good discrepant point between what ISB expects of us and what that writing is.
Right.
So,
But since this is all I have to go on.
Right.
This is where I am,
No,
right? I
that's-
mean.
And those are contracts that we actually have executed that are multi-year contracts in place until, 2022 in some cases. I think we have to fulfill the requirements of the contract. So I would just like to move to not extend anything past what we already have them extended until we get a chance to get that process all worked out and to make sure that we're in compliance with the language of the current contracts we have on hand.
We've got a motion and a second on the floor, so we would have to vote that down. Unless people wanting to make a motion want to amend it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to amend that, to amend it to,
Who made the motion, first motion?
Lori,
It was me.
So where is that language?
You're talking about the evaluation language?
It says, no later than March 1st of each year, the board and the superintendent of schools shall review with the administrator the administrator's progress toward the established goals and working relationships among the administrator, superintendent, board, faculty, staff, and community.
Second block.
I mean, that's, all I have is what I read, right, on my first day, so. I'm not gonna say that much longer, but I can say it today. So that's all I'm saying.
I would say that that has been accomplished through me providing feedback to the board about what the administrators are doing, their progress toward the goals. That's been how it's handled. If there's a desire to handle that differently, then that's a conversation among the board.
I think the attorneys put that in there to give us a little, for attorneys.
I mean, I guess I would like to see the goals and the job descriptions and the, you know.
So the earliest multi-year contract, the earliest that one ends is, we have plenty of time to extend.
Whose contract are we talking about?
So I'm saying if you look at all the multi-years, the earliest ones are Dr. Rummel's, Mr. Muxels, and Mr. Mills in 2024, currently. And so I'm saying that if we want to look at the evaluation process and circle back, we have quite a bit of time.
I don't particularly care for the optics of putting it on the table and taking it off the table.
I don't know what that means.
Extending and not extending.
No, I'm saying don't extend now, and we can extend later, once we are making sure that the.
And what's the
terms of
reason not to extend?
So that we can make sure we're following the terms of the contract and we're doing our responsibility to evaluate.
But if we wanna change the terms of the contract, we've now gonna extend that way into the future.
That we're making sure that the superintendent is properly evaluating
And the
the
board,
administrators.
and the
Well,
board
it
is
just
reviewing
says that
goals.
every administrator has to come to the board, we have to sit down with them, go over their goals, how they perform. If we don't wanna do that, or if we wanna do that, or whatever we wanna do, that's what the board has agreed
Yeah,
to.
the language is not
For
good,
the
because I
next
don't
2
wanna do
years,
that. I don't wanna be a
right?
weed eater.
So,
I don't.
If we were to table just those, since they have 2 more years of
Has the
contract
wording
ahead of
of
them,
these
it's not like
contracts changed?
we want these people to go away. And
No, we've used the contracts based upon the recommendation of our legal counsel, and that's what we've presented. It's been brought to our attention, and tell me if I'm wrong, please, because I wanna say it right. That the way that it's interpreted now is that, the board needs to be part of that, and that's not how we have done it in my 2 years being on the board.
Board is
Superintendent
part of
has-
it from the sense that I
Right,
report to the
comes to
board
us and
about
tells
the
us.
performance of the
Exactly.
administrators.
And
That
the
is
years
my
I've
job,
been here,
and
we've
that
got
is my role.
feedback
Right.
from
Right.
Lindsay.
I provide
And that's
feedback
what-
to the board,
Right,
and provide recommendations to the board
Right.
about the
We've had
performance
those
and hiring.
discussions.
Okay, well, we just asked before we vote on this to be able to see those, and we didn't have a chance to see those. So again, I think it's irresponsible for me as a board member to agree to spend money that has automatic raises and things that I don't wanna be in breach of contract. I value the employees, I'm not saying that we shouldn't extend multi-year contracts, but I'm saying I think it's irresponsible to not do all of the due diligence required before we make a vote of that magnitude. Has real impacts on the district and what we can do. in
Right,
terms
so I
of
guess what's in
staffing.
doubt, that's what I'm not sure what's in doubt.
I'm just saying, the language of that contract said that we sit down and go over goals. When we asked for the goals, Lindsay told us that she's never
Colleen
shared the
asked me
goals.
for the goals, and what I said was that those typically haven't been shared with the board. I mean, literally, what I was asked for was job descriptions and goals this afternoon. So part of my issue was a time commitment this afternoon, but what I also shared with Colleen was that the actual literal goals on paper have not been shared with the board.
so like practice and paper are not the same.
Feedback about progress toward those goals that has come through, discussions with the board and how administrators are progressing toward those. So, I think there's a little bit of, I don't, if it's over-interpretation or literal interpretation, that's fine. I'm just trying to explain the process that's been used so far.
Is there a legal or policy problem with sharing those goals? Is there something in policy that prevents you from sharing those goals, or something in
Other
the
than
law?
I'm not sure it's the role of the board to do that. But again, that's a discussion among all of you, and I'll take the direction of the majority of the board.
Well, I don't know how the other board members think, but I think setting goals for the district and by extension, the administrators is very much in line with the responsibility of the board.
But administrators have come in and set their building goals with us, they've come and given us their
With all their
plans.
staff.
So I
and
think
we-
Then what's
The
the
issue
hesitancy
here, though,
to
is that
give it to us now?
what you wanna vote on says they're gonna meet with us, every single one of them. And what I'm saying is, if that's not what we intend to do, then we should not vote this very minute to extend that. We should change it, because we already sort of are on the hook to do that for 2 more years, because they have a contract.
Well,
But if we extend this contract for a 3rd year, then we're saying for 3 years they have to come in and say, if that's not what we wanna do, that's okay.
if we're concerned
But
about
we
that.
should make it match, what we do and what we say should match.
I would agree with that. If we're concerned about that in the contract, we need to get it to our attorney and get recommendations from him. We can go back and we can modify the contracts. I doubt administrators would have a problem with that change in the contract.
Isn't there a
Uh,
point of a
change you
contract
talked
that you
about.
don't change? I mean, all I'm saying is I just want the contract we have to match what we want to actually do. And this that you're asking us to vote for right now says something that you're also saying we don't do. So I would just like what we do and what we say we do to match. And the way that we can accomplish that right now is to not extend and talk about that later, since there's already 2 years no one's like going home thinking, oh my gosh, I have no job. And we're saying we're gonna revisit the language and then extend. Now with the other people, the 1 year people, there's nothing we're gonna be able to do unless we wanna put them on hold for a month, but then they go home without a contract.
So I think we should just table the multi-years and vote everyone on the yearly contract through.
But the annual contracts have the same language.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Which is problematic, but I don't wanna send people, I mean, maybe we do, send them home with no contract.
I don't wanna send anybody home tonight with less than what they expected when they came in. I think if this is a big issue, we can meet with our attorney, get his interpretation on it, and go back and amend everything if we think we need to do that.
Can you amend a contract? I mean, isn't the point of a contract that it doesn't get amended?
And attach amendment.
Patch amendments, I do it every day, all day.
So you have to have both parties agree, so.
Sure, both would have to agree, absolutely. I see two different pieces of language in here, certified and non-certified. The burden that Colleen points out that the board and the superintendent should review with the administrator is the certified side. Non-certified does not have that language. Right.
I mean, I just want us to do what we're gonna say we're gonna do, that's
No, that's a valid
transparency, it's
point.
upfront, it's
I think
legal.
I think that's a valid point, and we probably need to clean that up in every contract we have. I don't see a need to hold things up tonight because of that. I do see a need to go back and look at the contract and maybe now.
I'm all for cleaning stuff up as well, but at this point, the calendar is suggesting this all starts with 2019 year, so July 1 is the date. Trent's got a few things to do to get ready for all that.
Was there a motion made? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got a motion to.
So can you add something onto it that the motion is made?
You can, because you made the
I
motion.
mean, I'm talking it through since this is a working, meeting, but the motion is made and we're committing to go back and look at that wording and language. I don't know how to do that.
You can amend the motion to do that, because you made the motion. Would you like to amend the motion that we go back and?
I need to think about how to say it. Gotta be in the minutes.
I mean, are you thinking to amend the motion to remove the requirement of the board to be with the administrator for the review?
Yeah, I don't wanna be with them, that's what I would say, I should not be evaluating.
Well, what
anybody.
I sense she's trying to do is amend the motion, or we approve it, or again, we go back and meet with the attorneys on that language.
The ISD is a lobbying group, and it's not the school code. There's a difference.
There is a difference.
There is a difference, yeah, that's all I'm saying, is the school code is very clear that the school board actually has impact on all administrators, it even talks about hiring teachers.
We do that now, we do, she comes to us and we tells them, I don't go and tell them what their building goals or things should be. You can have your opinion, I can have mine, and we can still sit next to each other, it's fine.
I'm not suggesting that we do that, I'm just saying, when we say we only hire one employee, that is not actually what the school code says. And so, the
So we
interpretation.
evaluate one employee.
Then I'm gonna throw in that if we can't agree that that language should be in or not, that's another good reason to approve it. Get some recommendations from the attorney, amend later, have the discussion later, amend it if we need to.
If you have a disagreement with your client about what the language of a contract means, your solution is to approve it and then fix it later.
I don't think I ever said that.
That seems backwards.
Mine was to, but if I'm the one that made the motion, I said I would keep the motion, but make that the wording had to go in.
But the problem is you have executed contracts through 2021 that have that language in, we can't unilaterally change their contracts tonight, they have to be a part of that process.
And those contracts.
So all
were
I'm
voted on
saying
2
is
years
we need
ago. I
to
was
not
on board with
extend,
it,
right, so I'm saying we can't extend that multi-year contract with that language, that is the whole point of this discussion. Is that I don't think it's
I
appropriate
think
to
if we have a
extend
problem
that
with
right
the
now.
language, we've got a problem with it in every contract, including the one-year contracts.
So
So we need to get some advice from the
there's
attorney.
an annual
Could
contract.
be, so,
So can we rescind that?
but is it true that every single administrator is already covered through 1920? Is that not,
No.
okay, because
Multi-years.
all multi-years, gotcha, this is
Which one
the
was?
single years. So we've got one board committee meeting left in June.
June 24th.
But I think we've got a couple issues. We got an issue that the language is in the contracts right now.
Yep.
And then we've got the issue of, do we want it in the contracts? And I'm hearing different things from the room on that. I don't know that we're gonna get that resolved tonight, I don't know if we're gonna resolve next month.
It sounds like all of these issues need to be discussed with our attorney as well. We certainly can't do that tonight. So Lori, what is your motion?
Well, I just said, do I need to rescind it? My motion was to approve it with us looking at the language, and Megan pointed out, then you're doing, it was right, she said, then you're kind of postponing it, and so, do we, I don't know, I said, can I rescind it, and we make a new motion, I don't, we're talking it through,
I think, what I thought you said was, can we approve contracts as they stand now, with the understanding that we're gonna go back and look at that language?
And what's the timeline on that, by June 24th?
No, I think the contract would, I think, well, we can put that in motion, but I think, obviously, we have the discussion on the attorney, with the attorneys on that relatively soon, and if we can have it by June 24th, we will, but that's gonna be, I think we're headed into a longer discussion, once we get the recommendation.
We're talking about the evaluation
or not.
piece of the contract. Yes, the evaluation piece is an important part of that contract, but I have a real problem with not being able to approve these contracts, and I think that we've got some good people who deserve to have these contracts approved, and they've done nothing to lose our confidence at this point. Now, yes, the language may need to be changed, but there's been no problems with these contracts in the past. And we can change them going forward and amend them and still approve them. I can't, I think it would be horrible to say we were just not gonna approve these contracts.
So keep the motion and call the question?
We've already talked about that finding good administrators is super important for our district. And if we're going to hang them out to dry, then good luck finding good administrators the next time.
I'm sorry, I think
I don't
that,
think so. I totally disagree. This is not essential language. This is not essential language. It's an evaluation piece, sure. Our superintendent does evaluate and brings that review to us. But we can change this, we can still amend this later and approve this contract. I think that to parse these details is just silly.
Would you?
I did not say that I wanted to leave anybody hung out to dry.
But that's what we're doing.
No, all I said was maybe I suggested that
Well,
we
then why
not
not agree to
extend
amend it?
the multi-year contracts that are already covered, and we can extend the contracts that need to be extended, and then that's just a year.
We have a
And
bunch of
then next
contracts with the
year,
same language.
yes, but it's just a year-long contract, which gives us the chance to actually next year figure out what we're going to do before we do it
But my point
again.
is, we could amend all these within the next few months.
Right,
Still
if
be
we
amended
need
and
to
re-sign
amend
the
it, let's not
contract.
make it a 3-year project,
No,
let's go
I'm not
back
saying
and
it has to
amend it.
wait 3 years, we can still amend these contracts and change the
I
language.
would, Jeremy, that it's not essential language is correct, it's non-urgent. That can be changed with due diligence, but I think operationally, we should move forward.
So the term for all of these contracts is July 1st is the start. So we're not leaving anyone out, we're not hanging out anyone to dry unless we don't approve something by July 1st. I don't understand the immediacy of tonight. We're already talking about having a special board meeting between now and the next June 24th board meeting. That gives us 2 opportunities to approve a contract for these folks. And again, it's only a contract for the single year people that would be left hung out to dry.
This is not essential language, we can keep it later, we can amend every contract we have.
All right, let's just call the question.
Yes.
Yes. Next,